This is guy Ilia Topuria, and Ilia Topuria is one of the absolute best fighters in the world. He's the current UFC featherweight champion. The dude is just phenomenal. But when one of the things that's phenomenal about him is his technique. His technique is...
So here's what just happened. The UFC finally released their complete White House card, and one fight immediately grabbed everyone's attention and sent the entire MMA community into overdrive. Dana White delivered the confirmation that everybody was desperately hoping for. Ilia Topuria will put his lightweight title on the line against interim champion Justin Gaethje in what promises to be an absolutely explosive unification showdown, and this perfectly captures Topuria's approach to business. The moment this announcement went live and started taking over social media, Ilia was already sharing training footage that proved he's locked in and completely focused. Now that everything's official and both fighters have signed on the dotted line, there's really only one question that has the entire fight world talking. What happens when you put one of the sport's most surgically precise knockout artists against one of its most relentlessly violent warriors on the most unique stage in combat sports history? The early footage from Topuria's training sessions tells a fascinating story if you know what to look for. What stands out immediately is the technical precision he's drilling. You see sharp striking combinations being perfected, calculated footwork sessions that focus on angles and distance control, and structured sparring rounds where timing and counterpunching take priority over raw intensity. This doesn't look like someone trying to prove how tough he is by going to war in practice. This looks like a champion who's systematically refining his tools, perfecting his timing, and building the technical foundation before cranking up the heat as fight night approaches. It's the mindset of a fighter who understands exactly what needs improvement and isn't interested in putting on a show for social media. Dana White couldn't be more enthusiastic about how he sees this entire situation unfolding. For him, Topuria versus Gaethje isn't just another solid fight that happens to work for a main event slot. This is the ideal headliner for such a monumental and unprecedented evening. He's publicly praised Topuria as one of the most well-rounded and dangerous champions currently holding gold anywhere on the roster. Then he highlighted Gaethje's most recent war as the type of instant classic that clearly earned him this title opportunity. Coming from Dana, who's witnessed countless battles and constructed hundreds of fight cards, this represents exactly the type of champion versus champion violence and elite level skill that you can confidently build a White House event around, trusting it will exceed expectations when the pressure is highest.
It is the main event. Ilia Topuria, one of the most sensational champions we've ever seen inside the octagon, facing Justin Gaethje, which I think is the absolute perfect matchup for him. Justin deserves it after the Paddy Pimblett fight. Ilia Topuria has been just a complete and total phenom, and I can't wait to see what happens at the White House.
Demetrius Johnson has made it clear he's genuinely excited about this main event selection, and his endorsement means everything. He views Topuria against Gaethje as an outstanding matchup based purely on fighting merit, regardless of the prestigious location or historic significance of the venue. From his perspective as arguably the greatest fighter ever who truly understands championship-level competition, Topuria deserves to enter as the betting favorite for several compelling reasons: complete skill development across all areas of mixed martial arts, exceptional fight intelligence that emerges during live combat, a granite chin that's been thoroughly tested under pressure, and legitimate one-shot finishing power that turns every exchange into a potential fight-ending moment. Johnson is also fascinated by the strategic approach Justin might choose to employ come fight night. He's observed how Gaethje has smartly modified his game plan in previous championship opportunities, studying his opponent's strengths and sometimes deliberately pulling back from his natural all-out brawling instincts to fight more tactically when circumstances require it. Whether he can maintain that disciplined approach while Topuria is constantly moving forward and forcing violent exchanges is one of the most intriguing tactical questions Johnson wants answered.
Let's talk about the fights, okay? The main event is Justin Gaethje taking on Ilia Topuria. I like that fight. I think it's a great fight. I think the biggest thing, like off the top of my head, I think Ilia Topuria knocks him out. But I do see a world where Justin Gaethje could knock him out as well. But Ilia Topuria is so damn good and his IQ is really high and he can take a shot and he damn well can give a shot. But the other flip side of this, what makes me excited, is to see how Justin Gaethje approaches it after spending time with him playing football. Because when he was talking about Paddy Pimblett, he was like, well, Paddy can't kick, so I was okay going into his power. How will he approach this fight against Ilia Topuria with someone who can kick and has a lot of power?
Ariel Helwani has fired back hard against the growing narrative that this card somehow represents a major disappointment simply because it doesn't feature an impossibly stacked collection of title fights happening simultaneously. He correctly points out that fan expectations spiraled completely beyond reality when people began fantasizing about 7 or 8 championship bouts on one card, which was never even remotely feasible given fighter contracts, champion schedules, and basic promotional logistics.
2 title fights. It was not the 7 to 8 title fights as was initially promised. It's a marquee main event. I know that there are some people who are upset. I know that there are some people who are trying to say like, hey, this is a letdown. This is an incredible 6-fight card, and it was never going to be 7 to 8 title fights. That was never going to happen. That would screw up the rest of their schedule. Ilia Topuria coming back against Justin Gaethje is a massive, massive fight. It is a marquee fight. It is one of the biggest fights of the year. Topuria coming back after everything he's been through, almost exactly a year between fights, is a very big deal. Pereira being on.
Helwani has also highlighted just how rapidly the Topuria versus Gaethje pairing actually came together behind the scenes. Based on information from his extensive network of industry insiders, the UFC originally pursued several other massive super fights first, chasing bigger star power and attempting to secure marquee attractions, but encountered frustrating roadblocks when negotiations stalled over contract terms. Once those preferred options became impossible and those opportunities disappeared, they suddenly faced enormous pressure to move quickly and avoid leaving their historic event without a compelling main event. In that high-pressure situation where they needed to salvage the headliner spot, securing a legitimate unification battle between Ilia and Justin wasn't just smart matchmaking, it essentially saved the entire card from feeling like it lacked a true marquee attraction worthy of the occasion.
Of skepticism. And I also know that Topuria versus Gaethje happened rather quickly as well. And so my feeling is, and I just want to say, the UFC put the fear of God in every MMA manager out there. Like I'm not really in the fight breaking news business anymore, but I did poke around in the dying days. Once Dana White said that they had to, I wanted to see what was up. I even told guys like, I don't even care. Like, I'm not trying to break this. I'm just curious. That's the God's honest truth. They put the fear of God in these managers, and they've been doing this for a long time, but never.
MMA Guru has completely dismissed the conspiracy theories that have been circulating online recently. Some fans were absolutely convinced that the UFC would never allow Gaethje to lose as the American headliner at a White House event, implying some form of predetermined outcome, but he calls that thinking completely absurd and baseless. From his perspective, if this fight unfolds according to current form and recent momentum, Topuria should rightfully enter as the favorite to win this championship unification. He's notably younger, clearly hitting his physical peak, and possesses genuine one-punch knockout danger in either hand that can instantly end any fight. These are all factors that Gaethje absolutely must respect and prepare for strategically. However, Guru completely understands why Justin remains confident about his chances and believes he can score the upset victory. His non-stop pressure fighting style creates constant action and forward movement that never allows opponents to settle into comfort zones, which means the fight should be absolutely electric from the opening seconds and could legitimately end in one devastating moment if Ilia connects perfectly with a clean shot.
They're never going to have a US fighter lose in the main event. Yeah, they are. Justin Gaethje's going to lose to Ilia Topuria in the main event in the White House. If he pulls it off, it'll be cinema, okay? And I'll assume that the rig is in. And Topuria has been paid $10 million to make the US look good on the world stage. Because Gaethje, he's the All-American. He's red, white, he bleeds red, white, and blue, brother. You know what I mean? He's going to be there. He's the only American that's even in conversations to ever be in a title fight. Unless they did Yan O'Malley too. Which people would still complain about, by the way. But it's the only other way they could have a US fighter in a title fight. Jones was never coming back. But Topuria Gaethje's a sick fight. Amazing fight. Love it. I think it's great as the main event of this White House card. But we could have done with a stronger undercard.
Gaethje revealed that the instant this fight became official and public, his training camp immediately shifted into the next gear without missing a beat. He refused to take an extended break or ease slowly back into serious preparation. He wanted to transition directly from one intensive training phase into championship preparation without losing any edge or competitive sharpness. For him personally, this opportunity represents something far more meaningful than simply adding another title belt to his collection. He speaks passionately about his humble small-town Arizona upbringing, his family's hard-working copper mining heritage that instilled his relentless work ethic, and how the chance to represent his country while fighting on the actual White House grounds feels like a truly historic honor that goes beyond athletic competition. This isn't just a huge unification opportunity to claim undisputed status, it's an unprecedented chance to represent his roots, his upbringing, and his community on a stage that absolutely no combat sports athlete in history has ever competed on before.
Map out for you, what's the plan?
Yeah, I mean, it starts now. I mean, I'm going home tomorrow, and Monday I'll be in the gym, you know, back. I've had my chef with me since the last fight. I knew this was coming, so, you know, I was not too banged up after last fight, thankfully, and I'm ready to go.
Justin,
ready to get back into work.
Obviously, you're fighting for the undisputed championship of the world.
Yeah.
That's insane. But as a proud American, what does it mean to be main event at Freedom 250 at the White House? What does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I can be as cliche as you want me to be. I mean, this is this is huge. You know, this is you know, coming from such a small town in the United States, southeastern Arizona. You know, from a copper mining family. I love this country. I've loved it. You know, you grow up representing your small town, you know, your mascot at school, and then it was college, and now I get to represent this country. So I mean, this is special to me. It's such a great honor and opportunity to highlight, you know, to finish or you know, not finish, but the end of my career has been so special. The caliber of fighters such as this guy that I have fought since the beginning has been incredible. To see my story come you know, in full circle like this and get an opportunity like this to be a headline of UFC 300, to be the headline of the UFC Paramount premiere, and to get this opportunity, you know, shows that, you know, I'm something special when I'm in there. And I believe I'm the most exciting guy that's in there.
When Gaethje analyzes the specific tactical challenges he needs to overcome to emerge victorious, he consistently returns to the same primary concern that keeps him focused: Topuria's remarkable timing and distance control abilities. He absolutely acknowledges the knockout power is legitimate and dangerous, but he explains that what truly concerns him most is how accurately and consistently Ilia finds his targets when fights get chaotic. In his experienced analysis, the path to victory isn't simply about absorbing punishment and responding with heavier shots and exchanges. It's about actively preventing those reads from developing, never allowing Topuria to get settled or comfortable enough to access that surgical precision that makes him so lethal. Even when media members ask about the emotional significance and historic nature of potentially hoisting a championship belt at the White House in front of that audience, Gaethje immediately redirects focus back to that fundamental tactical puzzle that he knows will ultimately decide the winner.
His technical abilities, I mean, he fights a very good fight. You know, he does a very good job of controlling distance. His footwork is special, and that's going to be the biggest task for me, is to control his feet and control distance and not let him, you know, find those power shots. There's no doubt he hits hard, and I obviously hit hard as well, but timing is everything. The reason his shots are so effective is because his timing is so perfect, and I'm going to have to disrupt that timing.
Go ahead, please, Kate.
Well, I was just going to say, just real quick, have you spoken to your family since the news dropped?
So my mom,
Wraps the undisputed lightweight championship around your waist.
that would be special, but not as special as accomplishing what I set out to accomplish when I started this journey, and that is to become the undisputed champion. And to do it against like a guy like Ilia Topuria on the White House lawn will be absolutely special, and Trump handing me the belt will be icing on the cake.
Well, congrats. We are super excited for you.
From a thematic storytelling perspective, Oscar Willis believes Gaethje makes perfect sense as the main event selection for a fight card so deeply connected to the White House and American patriotic symbolism. Having a blue-collar American warrior like Justin in the featured spot feels completely appropriate and thematically consistent with the event's broader meaning. Even though betting lines and expert analysis suggest he's clearly entering as the underdog, Willis still considers it excellent matchmaking that captures the moment perfectly. Topuria is correctly favored by most knowledgeable observers based on recent performances and current trajectory, but Gaethje's proven fighting approach and his championship-tested experience make it absolutely impossible to to write him off completely.
Theme of the whole event, I think you can say what you want about Justin's chances in that fight. Obviously, a lot of people have him as the underdog, quite a favorable, quite a significant one against Ilia. But if you're going to go for the whole American vibe of fucking fly over jets and all the rest of it, Justin Gaethje probably makes sense, right? So I think that fight is good. It's thematically correct. And let's say Justin, pulls off the upset. I mean, possibly one of the greatest moments in UFC history for the American fan base anyway. So I don't really hate that fight. And
Luke Thomas views this matchup as something the lightweight division naturally created through the established championship hierarchy. With Topuria holding the undisputed title and Gaethje carrying interim gold, he argues there's really no reasonable alternative that makes logical sense. The division's next step practically determines itself when you examine the ranking structure. In his straightforward assessment, when you have two champions in the identical weight class, the cleanest and most obvious solution is completely apparent. Put them in the octagon together and determine once and for all who the legitimate division king truly is. Willis sees another compelling narrative in how this fight actually secured this particular spot on this specific card. He strongly believes that Topuria vs. Gaethje wasn't the original first choice for the main event position, and that the UFC initially envisioned a completely different super fight for the White House spectacle. When that preferred option collapsed for undisclosed reasons during negotiations, he thinks they needed to pivot rapidly and identify an alternative. This unification bout represented the highest stakes, highest quality matchup they could actually finalize and announce within their compressed timeline.
that is for the first one. Sorry, years of abuse. So we do this, we react. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje is the main event in Washington, D.C. for the Freedom Fights 250, the American-themed event at the White House. We'll go through it sort of line by line. I don't want to reveal too much because I want to ask Dana about this at the press conference. I don't think this was the original main event they had. I think yesterday that fight fell out. I think they had alternate plans for Ilia, and for whatever reason they had to pivot, and I believe they finally got something done with Ilia to accept the Justin Gaethje fight at the White House. I think if you look at the American theme of the whole event, I think you can say what you want.
Thomas is also careful to emphasize that the practical circumstances of how it materialized don't diminish its entertainment value or appeal for fight fans whatsoever. Topuria enters this championship unification riding an incredible run of absolutely brutal finishes and building momentum that has analysts calling him a future pound-for-pound elite talent. Gaethje's entire professional reputation has been constructed on delivering barn-burner fights, relentless action, and regular fight-of-the-night performances that create unforgettable moments for audiences. That fascinating combination of clinical efficiency meeting organized chaos is precisely why Luke completely expects this matchup to provide serious entertainment and lasting memories regardless of the venue or surrounding circumstances.
Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Of all the available choices that they have, yes, would have been great to have, Ilia versus Arman or Ilia versus Islam, sure. But in a world where Gaethje is already the interim champion based on UFC 324, this is the fight that has to happen to unify those titles, right? Because Ilia has the normal title and Gaethje has the interim one. The fight will be exciting. I know people were talking like, oh, you can't have an American get stretched on the White House lawn. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's absolutely no connection historically to mixed martial arts and the patriotic trimmings generally. More to the point, like, this is an important fight. You've got an American in it, and if Ilia wins, you're now putting over on one of your sort of more significant cards one of the most important guys currently on your roster, and maybe for the future of it.
James Lynch interprets the situation through identical matchmaking logic when you examine the promotional hierarchy. Once Gaethje officially secured the interim championship by surviving that absolute war, this unification battle became the clear and honestly only reasonable main event option, whether casual observers preferred other potential names being discussed or not. He completely recognizes that some vocal fans were actively campaigning for contenders like Arman Tsarukyan to jump the line and receive the title shot based on current winning streaks. But from a traditional matchmaking perspective and how championship fights have historically functioned in this sport, the interim champion is supposed to face the undisputed champion next to unify both belts. That's the established protocol. That's why James and others who understand promotional hierarchy saw Topuria versus Gaethje appearing on the White House card as completely predictable rather than surprising.
Or surprising. First with the main event of Topuria and Gaethje. So Alvaro Cornameno, who I mentioned a couple weeks back, looks like he was wrong about that report because he thought this fight might not happen on the White House card. It is. Maybe something changed. I don't know. But yeah, this is a great main event for the card. Everyone's excited. You know, a lot of people feel like it should be Arman and Ilia, but obviously Gaethje won the interim title, so he's up next. He's going to fight Ilia Topuria in this fight, so that makes sense.
All of that context and every single one of these viewpoints explains exactly why this individual matchup generates so much of the entire event's excitement and anticipation by itself without requiring a loaded supporting card.